رسول الله صلى الله على طه خير الخلق.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم. أما بعد. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم افتح علينا حكمتك وانشر علينا رحمتك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to our online course on the philosophy of Isra and Miraj. This is lesson number 6 now. So we've covered 5 lessons in which we've studied the nature of miracles. We've sort of defined them, the purposes behind miracles, why they needed. And we've also studied one of the most interesting theories about miracles coming from the Muslim world, which was by a group of scholars who were the philosophers or the philosopher. So it's a common misconception among people that the philosopher were completely heterodox, as in outside the fold of Islam, and they outrightly rejected, miracles and other things, which is a misconception. As we've seen, they did believe in miracles. They gave a very rational, a very logical, a very scientific, I would say, theory on miracles. But today what we're going to do is, inshallah, we're going to cover one of the most beautiful, I would say the most sophisticated yet elegant theories on nature that came from the Muslim world. It's so beautiful, it's so, it's so rich in its content, just understanding it, how the scholars of our past, just by contemplating on the Quran, can come up with such beautiful theories. In it, just that bit is seriously fascinating. Now, what's even more remarkable, especially for our generation, is that we are actually witnessing something very interesting. That there are various papers, many books that have been written, drawing parallels between this particular theory that we're going to discuss today and contemporary physics, especially quantum physics, which is so remarkable because, understand, we are actually talking about something which was completely religious. It's completely rooted in the Quran. And 1,000 years back, people are talking about this. Like, we're talking about 900 AD. That's when these particular group of scholars formulated this theory on nature. So it's a theory on the physical world. It's a type of a theory of physics that they had. It's just that they didn't involve mathematics in it. And to draw parallels between something which is that old, 900 AD, with a contemporary physics theory like quantum mechanics, which is so successful, it runs your phone, it runs, your computer, it runs the entire, through certain statistics, we would be able to say that 1/3 of the economy actually runs because of quantum physics. And to draw parallels between these two is amazing. It's remarkable. And that should tell you the intellect, the level of intellect that these people were on, and their sincere devotion to the understanding of the Quran and the secrets that lie within the Quran. Okay, so let's just go straight into that. So Ilm al-Kalam, we're actually going to be talking about Ilm al-Kalam, which is Islamic theology. Now, I've named the section Muslim Theologians' Contentions because this theory actually grew up. It was formulated as a response against the philosopher. So now that we are clear with the philosopher theory on nature, that they consider that nature is made up of the entire physical world is made up of natures. Things have their inherent natures. Fire burns because it's in the nature of fire to burn. Water flows because it's in the nature of water to flow. And whatever we see, the regularity that we see in nature is because of these programmed laws of nature. So created things are functioning on their own. they're in charge, they have this sort of a power, or what we could call efficiency. They have this causal efficiency. They can cause, they can produce effects on their own. Okay, so this was the philosopher's view. Now, that's why I've called it the Muslim theologians' contentions, because this group of scholars, who are the theologians, did not like the philosopher's theory. So they contended and they criticized that theory, and in response to that, they created their own theory, which was constituted a part of Ilm al-Kalam. Now, Ilm al-Kalam is Islamic theology. So it deals with questions about Aqidah, who is a Muslim, what does it mean to be a Muslim, what does it mean to be outside the fold of Islam, and all of that. What is important to believe in Islam? That divine attributes, okay, how do we understand Allah's attributes along with His essence? Who is Allah, and what about the 99 attributes that we have? How do we understand that? And also the question of free will. Do we have free will? Are we robots? Or does Allah determine everything in the universe? It's just running according to His plan. So all of these were very important questions that they discussed. These mutakallimun, they were called, Muslim theologians were called the mutakallimun, people who engaged in ilm al-kalam. So according to the mutakallimun, the notion that nature functions on its own according to its laws contradicts the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the sustainer of the universe. So remember, the philosopher were of the opinion that they're just laws that have been programmed into the universe, and that's how the universe functions according to those laws of nature. And even though, remember, that the philosopher did not reject Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no, they were all Muslims and pretty much devout Muslims and well rooted in Islamic, in the Islamic tradition. But it's just, according to their understanding of the physical world, it was that when it comes to this realm and this level of reality, which is the physical world, these laws have already been sort of programmed, and the world functions according to these laws, and that's it. Now, the mutakallimun rejected this. They criticized this because if we're going to call, according to them, if we're going to call Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be the sustainer of everything, that means He has to be involved in everything. That means that there has to be a divine interference or a divine intervention or a presence in everything. So they criticized the philosopher's view. So according to them, no created thing can effect any change or create something independent of God. Now remember, what was the philosopher's view on this? The philosopher were of the opinion that yes, of course, created things can create effects. Created things can affect other created things. So, for example, fire, which is a created thing, can create the event of burning a paper, right? So on its own, that was the philosopher's opinion. But when it came to the mutakallimun, the theologians, they had a problem with this view. And of course, their opinion is that no, how can a created thing affect change on its own? How can a created thing have any power? If we're going to say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the sustainer, that means He is controlling everything. No created thing can have any power. So I hope we can make these sort of comparisons between how the philosopher thought about the same thing and how the mutakallimun are thinking about the same thing. So then they say, Allah is al-Qayyum. That is the sustainer. He's the self-subsisting. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Rabb, the Lord. He is the sustainer. He is Samad. He's absolute. He's not in need of anything, but everything needs Him. So all of these themes and these attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are all over the Quran. They're not something which are hidden. So they contemplated on these attributes and they criticized the philosopher based on their understanding of the Quran, that no, as long as we are going to, sort of accept that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the sustainer of the universe and of everything that exists, we have to have Him. We have to include Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's sort of providence and His direct control in the physical world. We cannot leave things in the physical world to their own natures. Okay. So building on this theme, then, their opinion was that objects have no inherent properties or natures. So this whole idea of the philosopher that things have natures in themselves and they function according to them, the mutakallimun criticized this notion, and according to them, then, because they were so insistent on this fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who is directly sustaining the universe, so they were of the opinion that it is He Himself, subhanahu wa ta'ala, who determines each and everything at every moment in the universe. So they're building this theory of theirs based on this direct control of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the universe. Okay, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sustains the universe from one moment to the next, as it cannot even endure and exist for a moment without God giving it existence. This is very important because now they're involving time in it as well. So they're saying it can't even exist and endure for one moment to the next. And we're going to go into what exactly do they mean by a moment there. But they're saying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so much in control of the entire universe that don't even think about things having their own natures. Nothing of that sort. It is only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who gives things their natures and who is directly involved in each and every event that happens in the universe. So now that we've built this foundation and this introduction into how the mutakallimun built their ideas about the physical world, why were they so critical of the philosopher, and why were they so insistent on the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being the Qayyum, being Rabb, being a Samad, and the other ayat that talk about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is directly involved in the physical world, why were they so insistent on that? And they were critical of the philosopher's theory on natures. We need to understand this very well so as to go into the next step, which is into their atomic theory. So they develop their atomic theory primarily based on these views. So it's not something which is unnecessary or just, a formality in somebody's thought. No, the fact that we have to understand they're rooting it all in the Quran and their conception of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being the sustainer. And for them, then, the atomic theory, according to them, then becomes necessary to actually, take this idea about the nature to its logical end. And we're going to see that, inshallah, in the next lesson.